It's week 10 of my Summer with Lisa Kleypas challenge, and we are doing Married by Morning. Hi, my name is Bea, and welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, because nobody in this book is going to get sick. Wait, no, they had scarlet fever, but that was before this book. All right, nobody's getting sick in this book. In this vlog, yes. In the book, no. Well, just to tell you, I'm actually filming this vlog out of order because the beginning of the week when I started reading Married by Morning, I was too sick to really even record. So it's all out of order. This is towards the end of the week. I'm almost done with the book and I'm still getting back to normal after having COVID. This is day 9. Everyone in my family had it and I'm the only one still that has an issue. Everybody else is at the pool right now, so I thought I would record. I apologize for my appearance and the fact that I'm sick. If you do not want to be part of a COVID vlog, I do not blame you. I feel like Leo and Catherine certainly deserve better than a sick vlog, but this is the order that it's going in, so I do apologize to everyone, fictional and real. I love this book so much. I was so excited to reread this one specifically when I decided to redo the Hathaways series. Leo has had such a hard time after the death of his beloved Laura Dillard of scarlet fever. He was very much a mess for years and he's come back to life in large part because of Catherine Marks, who is the companion to Beatrix and formerly Poppy, who is now happily married thanks to the events of Tempt Me in Twilight, which was Poppy's book. And I love this book so much because we get to see Catherine and Leo become whole because of each other. I had forgotten how much he's very persistent and she needs persistence, I guess, but to the point where it's like coercion, where I'm like, Leo, why don't maybe lay off a little bit. He's insanely charming and very funny, and very persistent. So it's overall very enjoyable. I love this book. And to tell you right off the bat, the song that I heard, I wasn't even reading the book at the time, and I heard Harry Styles' song Falling, and I felt like Leo was singing it. I'm just so happy to see that he's falling in love again with Catherine after never thinking he would find happiness after Laura Dillard died. For the rest of this vlog, I'm going to be doing spoilers, so be prepared. And also you're going to see me sick, like worse than right now. If you don't want to be a part of this vlog, I don't blame you, but I hope you guys are doing well. And so now we're going to move into the vlog. Enjoy, I guess. Day 4 of COVID for me. I had symptoms 3 days ago and I tested positive for the first time yesterday. And so I'm on day 4 and it is less than lovely. And my 2-year-old and 8-year-old seem to have already had it and now they're already recovering, which is nice. Although getting up with them when I'm already exhausted is tough. And yeah, I mean, I even took my test, you know, with the swabs, and it was like, oh, I had 2 kids hanging on me and pulling on me. I'm like, this is very challenging. Anyway, so, but as I had mentioned in my previous vlog, it's really lovely to get to still do this. So I apologize if this is in any way anxiety provoking, or if you're like, I don't want to know about COVID, I just want to enjoy the book. But for me, it's been lovely having this outlet while I'm sick, because just getting to read, and I tell you what, it could not be a better time to read one of my very favorite Hathaways book, Married by Morning, than during this week. Really, because I need a good book. So I'm in the midst of chapter 6. I got this at a used book sale for like $4, and it's 2 volumes in one. It is Married by Morning and Love in the Afternoon. So I'm enjoying reading this, and I did share about this in my used book haul. So I was excited to buy both of these, and I'm really enjoying reading it physically because I don't have a lot of energy to do anything else. So it's been really nice. So yes, I am in chapter 6 right now, and it's interesting that we actually start off, we're overlapping with the honeymoon phase, literally the honeymoon phase of Poppy and Harry's book, Tempt Me at Twilight. So Harry and Poppy are at the Ramsey house with Leo and Catherine and Kev and Wynn and Amelia and Cam. And we get to the part where Leo is watching Harry and Catherine have a conversation. It's an intimate conversation in the back garden. And I totally forgot to mention this in my last vlog, but I was sick, so I do apologize. Harry and Catherine have this great conversation where he apologizes for not being there enough for her, although he has given her enough money so that she doesn't even have to work. He's taken care of her as best he could, considering how remote he was emotionally. So, I mean, but he really wants to be a better big brother to her, which is so sweet. But Leo's watching this and he's like, what are they planning? Is she his former mistress? Like, this is wrong. There's something wrong about this. So he goes to confront her afterwards, and she's basically not going to tell him anything. She tries to run away from him and she drops her glasses, and he feels badly because she's on the ground trying to find her glasses because she's as blind as a bat, basically. This part is written so beautifully, like they're in the garden in the summertime, just like it is here now. There's the smells of summer and the grass, and they're both on their knees. He's helping her put her glasses on, and then he's touching her face, and then before you know it, they are kissing, and it is hot, and they both know that things are going to change. Although right after, she says, look, I'm just going to deny this. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. Because as we fast forward, and this was in the epilogue of Harry and Poppy's book, he comes back after spending time in London and he's like, we need to talk about what happened. And she's like, no, we don't. But anyway, as Leo had gone to London after their little encounter in the garden, he had spoken to Harry and learned a bit more. And a lot of this is exposition from the previous 3 books. But, you know, Harry explained that the only thing that we learned that was new was that Catherine had been sent to live with her grandmother and aunt because her mom was not well. And Harry figured that it was better for Catherine if she was being raised by women. And Leo said, well, was it better for her? And Harry says no. And that's all that he's willing to divulge to Leo. So Leo really wants to know, what is the deal? The plot becomes a smidge hokey for me in this point, but I don't really care because, again, I love this book so much. They discover that Leo can only keep the property if he gets married and has a male heir within a year. The original house is the thing that actually is entitled to them, but it's just a bunch of rubble. And what they've built is something that's on like a side piece of land. And so the widow of the last Lord Ramsay and her daughter actually get to have the house. And now that they know how amazing it is, they want to move in. And Leo's like, that's not going to happen. So they decide to have a ball, which, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for a ball. And they're going to look for a woman to marry Leo and hopefully give him a male heir within a year because nobody wants to lose Ramsay House. They're far too attached to it. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. And Leo actually says to Catherine, he goes, I'm going to ask you for a dance at the ball. And she's like, don't you dare. And that's pretty much where we leave off. Although they decide Leo really wants to see the rubble. He's now really curious about the original spot where they could actually keep their land and maybe they could rebuild or something. So he goes, and Catherine actually has to accompany him because she knows where it is. He's not certain where the original house stands. So Catherine's going to go with him because Beatrix can't. Why can't she? She's got to help deliver a litter of kittens. Of course, right, Beatrix? So Catherine goes with Leo. And as we've noticed, I mean, this is throughout all the 6 chapters, Leo's attraction to Catherine is off the charts. And he didn't think that was even possible after the death of Laura Dillard, because he couldn't love anyone as much as her. And he decided he was never going to love again because it hurt him so badly. But he cannot deny how attracted he is to Catherine. And it's because she's plays so hard to get. And he just wants to, like, conquer her, basically, because she's just so challenging. And he loves a good challenge. So anyway, as I'm leaving the middle of chapter 6, they are just arriving at the rubble that used to be the Ramsay house. So you'll see me tomorrow. Let's see, day 5 of COVID. What does that look like? This is what day 5 of COVID looks like, at least for me. Hopefully, if anybody else is experiencing this, they're getting through it a lot faster than I am. Everybody else in my family has, and I'm the last holdout. So now I have 3 children that feel better and want me to entertain them, and they're jumping on me. I'm a human playground. But thank heavens, I've got this to get me through. I read chapters, I started in the middle of 6, and I believe...
Mommy, where did it go?
I'll be right there, honey.
Downstairs.
Oh, okay. The middle of chapter 11. So they're in the ruins, or they're on top of the ruins, and they discover that the roof is about to cave. He tries to help her, but they both end up going through the roof into the ruins. And then they discover that Leo says he's got a splinter. He's been impaled by a timber. So it's very serious. Catherine decides to build steps out of the rubble that they've fallen into with rocks so he can get up and get on the horse. And she's trying to keep him awake by having him talk about his life. And so he told her about Laura Dillard, which Amelia later explains it's very important that he told her that. It means a lot because he doesn't ever talk about Laura Dillard. So I love Kev and Cam are gonna help Leo with some Romany tried and true methods for solving physical ailments. And Leo goes, well, did you say your chants? Did you sacrifice a goat or something like that? And they said, well, we did that downstairs before we came up to you. Their banter is just so terrific. They all know one another so well, and there's so much love, and they can just tease one another, and it's not a big deal. However, the problem is Leo is terrified to take the laudanum because of the past experience he had with opium. And he tells Catherine this, and she says, I'm gonna save you from yourself. Like, you take it and I'm gonna make sure that you don't fall. And he's like, but I'm a lot to handle. And she's like, I can handle it. So as he's recovering, she's been checking on him at night. And then one night she comes in to check on his forehead and he's feeling cool, but he grabs her wrists. Oh my gosh, it's so hot, so steamy. They end up tangled up together in his bed until she's like, oh my gosh, no. And he goes, you better get out of here right now if you're not wanting this, because otherwise I'm gonna finish it. And so that's pretty much where we leave off. The only other thing I have not mentioned is how much Dodger is in this book, and it's just so heartwarming. I love how much Dodger loves Catherine. It's so darn cute. So that's pretty much where we are in the middle of chapter 11, and then the next time you see me, hopefully day 6 will look better. Well, now we're at day 6 of my COVID, and I think I'm starting to feel better, but the fatigue is real, and there's a lot of sweating. Not that you need to know that. Even after I take a shower, I'm like, there's so much sweating all the time. It's like working out, but you're doing nothing. Can't wait for this to be over. Thank heavens I have this. And I was midway through chapter 11 and finished today midway through chapter 16. So the morning after their little encounter in Leo's bed, they're sort of avoiding one another, but she bumps into him at the library, and she bumps into some of his drawings that he's doing for architecture, but instead of just finding architectural sketches, she also finds pictures that he's drawn of her naked, which makes her feel naked. And it's awkward. And he said that, even if she asked him to discard them, and he says, well, even if I did, I'd have to draw more. And then he's like, I'm just kidding. But he's obviously completely enraptured by her, and it makes her uncomfortable. Not long after that comes one of my very favorite scenes where they're in a garden. They're trying to talk about how mind can always overcome the physical, and she said she would never be attracted to him, and he says, okay, well, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna kiss you, and then I'm gonna ask you a question, and if you are able to answer it correctly, then we know that you're right and that the physical can't possibly overcome the mind. So he kisses her, and at first it's tentative, and then it gets a little bit more heated, and he asks her a question, and she fails it. It's like a riddle, and she's like, well, I want to do it again. He goes, well, we got to do a kiss for a question. So then they kissed again, and it got even more heated. And then she failed another question, and then it happened again, and she fails another question. And these were great kind of riddles or word plays. And just seeing the two of them together in this summer garden, getting further and further wrapped up in one another, I just loved it. I loved the banter back and forth too. It's one of my very favorite scenes in the whole book, followed quickly by my least favorite, or one of my least favorite scenes from the book, where he finds out that she's dyeing her hair, and he can't stand the thought. So he goes up like a jerk, and he starts like forcing her head over a basin. He's washing her hair out, and then they start like wrestling and struggling, and he holds her wrists down while he's lying on top of her, and she starts to scream like, don't hold my wrists, because of some experience she's had. And he's like, oh, please don't be scared of me. Don't be scared of me. And And then he proceeds to start ravishing her, and he's given her quite a bit of pleasure until Cam Rohan comes and knocks on the door, and he's like, you need to come talk to me right now. And Leo's like, great. And Cam says, look, you cannot, like, your sisters are worried, the housemates are freaking out. You cannot go upstairs and lock yourself in a room with some of the hired help. And they're terrified now. So you cannot do that. And Leo said, well, I just have to get over her. I can't get over her, but I have to get over her. I'm so sorry. Like, I just can't. Although, does he actually apologize? I'm not sure. Not my favorite. But anyway, there's a ball coming up. So they immediately start focusing on that instead. And the ladies who are supposed to get their mansion come to the ball. And Leo starts dancing with this woman who I think she's interested in him, quite frankly, but isn't she like a distant cousin? A very distant cousin. And Catherine becomes very jealous when he sees Leo dancing with, I believe her name is Davina. And oh my gosh, it's very interesting to see how jealous she is. And then the two of them start dancing, and it's while she's dancing with Leo, and it's so magical and beautiful. And they're just fitting together so perfectly that her world comes crashing down because a man she's been trying to disguise herself against, someone she's been hiding from for years, Lord Latimer, spots her, and that's what she's been terrified of for years and years. And so she tries to take off, and he comes to find her. Meanwhile, Leo recognizes Lord Latimer from Leo's worst years after Laura Dillard's death. And he knows that Lord Latimer is a bad, bad guy. So Leo's very concerned that Catherine and Lord Latimer know one another. And we head back to Catherine and Lord Latimer, and he basically says, you know, you owe me, my pride is hurt. Like roughly 7 years ago when she was 15, he paid good money to take her virginity, and it didn't happen. And now he wants retribution for 7 years worth of hurt pride. And he assumes that since she's with Leo, that Leo, and as he knew Leo at Leo's very worst, so he figures that Leo is basically paying her to be at his beck and call, and not the best way possible. And so now Lord Latimer wants to crack at her. So we'll see what happens next. So now we're at, I think, day 8 of COVID. Yesterday I didn't actually record anything because I wasn't feeling well enough. Anyway, the fatigue is real. Just trying to relax and rest while I can before my husband has to go back to work in a few days. But yesterday I did read chapter 16 midway through to chapter 20. And at that point, Lord Latimer was talking to Leo and just explaining how he wanted a crack at Catherine, and Leo's like, no way. And obviously Catherine's super upset, and the following morning they discover she's gone, and turns out she is on a carriage, and discovers that in her bag is Dodger, who could never be parted from her. And Dodger, at one point there's a woman sleeping in the carriage across from her, and she's got cherries on her hat. And Dodger went and grabbed the cherries while this woman's sleeping, and then tried to jump back into the bag, and the woman woke up and freaked out because 1, there was a weird animal on a carriage, and 2, it's stealing things from her best hat. Catherine got kicked out. And then she's in this kind of stranded at this inn, but who shows up but Leo? And he gets a room for just one of them. So the whole just one bed trope that everybody loves. And she wanted separate rooms, but he was concerned, I think rightly so, of having her be alone. And, but then, he offers to sleep on the floor, but they really have some heart-to-hearts. I mean, the whole time that they're in the room, they finally do. He's very, very encouraging, and initially she's resistant, but he's humorous and encouraging, and they wind up making love multiple times. And he talks about how he wants to marry her. He really does. And she talks about, after she has a nightmare, she starts to open up about her childhood and how, she had to live with her grandmother and her aunt after her mom became sick and her dad kind of got rid of her. And she thought she lived next door to a library, but then discovered later that it was a house of prostitution, and that they expected her to become a prostitute at the age of 15 because she needed to earn her keep. and it's what women in her family had been doing for like 4 generations, and they said it was in her blood. And it wasn't until one day she discovered a letter from Harry that was never delivered to her. She found it in the desk of her, I want to say, grandmother, and she wrote to him and said, "Please come get me." And just before Lord Latimer took Catherine, Harry blasted in there, guns ablazing, literally, and rescued Catherine. And that's the story then that we know about how he gave her money, and he sent her to a school, and where she was a student until she became a teacher. And then one day there was a family that needed a companion, and Marks, which was the name of the head of the school, said, "Would you join?" And she said yes, and she's loved the family ever since. So, and it's become well known now that Catherine and Leah both had an attraction for each other before they were really willing to acknowledge it. So just very sweet, and Leo is so humorous and adorable. And I think he's starting to make her feel a sense of relief and safety, but I don't believe she's agreed to marry him yet. I think she's still concerned after his many, many years of talking about not wanting to ever get married. And I think she does understand that he's basically over Laura Dillard now. We'll see what happens next. I just finished chapters 20 through 24. I'm still just sort of resting and getting over being really fatigued. It's been great reading, and also sharing. So enjoy my messy backyard. We got a lot of stuff going on because the kids have been playing in the back a lot more because there's not a whole lot to do when we can't take them places. But anyway, chapters 20 through 24. This was again like sweet love scenes between Leo and Catherine, and then they head to London. And Catherine's still on the fence about whether or not she wants to marry Leo, and Harry is very much not interested. He and Leo decide to fight, and of course Leo just put up with the exact same thing in the last book because Leo didn't like Harry, and of course Harry's now married to Leo's sister, so they have a really interesting conversation over brandy after they fight and decide it's a sort of a stalemate. And then Poppy and Catherine have a great conversation, and Poppy explains, "I'm just so hopeful that you are going to be with Leo," which of course is the exact opposite of what Harry wants. So they're sort of canceling one another out. But Harry makes an announcement that Catherine is his sister, and that she's a great woman who went to school and became a governess and all this. So he's excited to take her out formally as his sister, and they go to a play, and it's very interesting. Here's the crazy part. The end of chapter 24, someone grabs Catherine's hand through the curtain, and she assumes that it's Leo being kind of sweet, and it is not. It is Lord Latimer, and he is there to grab her. And that's the place the chapter ends, and how scary. Okay, so it's day 9 of COVID, and I just went to a cardiologist just to check everything out, and thankfully I'm in good shape, but it's just the fatigue, I guess, at this point. It's just exhausting. So I'm very happy to continue to read and talk about the book when I have the energy. Right now, everybody else is at the pool, so I had a moment to myself, and I thought I better do this before I need to lie down again. Right now, we are chapters 25 through 8. It might be 27. But what happened, Catherine told Leo that Lord Latimer approached her at the theater, and he told her that they are working on some legal proceedings that are going to get Latimer ejected from the UK, which would be amazing. Hopefully that will work out. And another person she bumps into at the theater is William. He's grown up now, but he was a little boy that lived at the brothel that Catherine spent much of her childhood at. And he let her know that her grandmother has since passed away, and her aunt is not doing well at all, but he just wanted, I guess, to check on her because he heard that she was around. And she offered him money because she just felt so badly for him, and I think that offended him a little bit. But anyway, Leo continues to persist, trying to get Catherine to marry him. There's a lot of love making and a lot of coercing in various ways. He puts her in quite a situation in passion, and then tries to get her to agree to marry him, and it does not work, and he's hoping that it will. He wants her to decide she needs to lose, basically. And one of the other ways that he does that is he goes to see Miss Darwin, his, I guess, distant cousin, who wants to marry him. This would solve all the problems with the house, and turns out he he guesses correctly that she is pregnant by another man's child, and the man is too low a position for her to want to marry. So Leo says no thank you, but lets Catherine believe for a moment that he says yes, just to try to coerce Catherine to want to marry him, but she just doesn't feel like she can accomplish it. So in the end, again, he's trying to coerce her through he gets her into a very passionate state and then tries to convince her again. And when she says no, he leaves. Like, oh, Leo, what are you doing? But he's trying every card he can play, and she's just not going to fall for that. So at the end, he just says, you gotta want to lose. And that's what I'm hoping to get you to do. So there we have it. The end of chapter 27, I believe. And then the next segment will be the end of the vlog and the end of the book. Well, I just finished the book. Oh! So it's day 10 of my COVID, and I'm definitely on the mend. I'm feeling much better, but things are exhausting and I still have some congestion, but I guess I'll take it. So I'm feeling better, but I'm still exhausted. Anyway, I finished the book, chapters 28 through the end. So good, oh my gosh. So, Catherine kept turning Leo down, so he decides that he is going to just sort of court her. He gives her a gift every day. They have these wonderful talks. They tease one another. He holds her. I mean, it's just perfection, the gentlemanly way that he goes about courting her, and he's just so sweet, and she just can't stand how amazing he is. He even gives her new glasses that are perfect for her. He actually took her in the last part, which I forgot to mention, and got her specially tested for perfect glasses for her, which is awesome. And yeah, so I mean, it's just so beautiful and wonderful, and I love it so much. And then unfortunately, in the middle of the night, she gets taken away by William, and he's like apologizing to her, but he has to do it because Althea is the only one he has. That's the only life he's ever known. So he takes Catherine, he actually drugs her with a gag, and Dodger comes to the rescue, or at least tries to, and bites William, and he makes him bleed. And that was one of the first giveaways the following morning that something was very wrong, because Catherine's glasses were beside the bed and there was blood on the bed. So they knew something was very wrong. And who, of course, did they think is the perpetrator? Lord Latimer. So Harry and Leo go in there, guns a-blazing, literally. One of them actually holds a gun up to, I think it's Harry, holds a gun up to Lord Latimer's forehead, and he's counting down. And Lord Latimer's like, I don't know anything. And Lord Latimer, by the way, is a mess. I think he's got a disease and he's just doing very poorly, which I guess is just desserts karma right there. So anyway, Harry's getting down. He's like 5, 4, 3, and Latimer's losing it. And it gets to 2, and Leo's like, he doesn't know anything. And then they're like, well, who else could have taken her? And they realize Althea, because Leo remembered seeing William at the theater the other day. And so they go to the brothel, and backtracking just a smidge, Catherine's there and she's had a conversation with Althea. My heart just breaks for Althea. She's obviously losing her mind, and she's high on opium, and she's trying to get Catherine high, and it's working pretty well. But the conversation they have breaks my heart. The poor thing, Althea. I mean, she was ruined at age 12. I mean, it's just disgusting the way that poor woman was treated as a child, and her brother didn't care about her, who was Catherine's father. Just terrible. And Althea's like, oh, you don't want to be like me, to Catherine. And Catherine says, well, the difference between you and me is that I'm loved. And it just breaks your heart. Like, yes, Althea's the bad guy here, but also she's a victim of her circumstances. So I feel so badly for Althea. I really do. And William too. I mean, he's the villain, but he's really in bad shape. I mean, the way that he's been raised, and he doesn't know any better, or he can't do any better, really. So anyway, Leo and Harry arrive, and one of the worst situations is going down that could possibly happen. Catherine is high as a kite, in a nightgown, outside on the roof. And she can't see, obviously, without her glasses anyway. And so she is very compromised. And Leo tells her, I mean, it's just such an insane scene. I mean, we come off the intense scene of Leo and Harry with Lord Latimer, and then it's out of the frying pan into the fire. Now, you know, he's got to rescue Catherine. He throws a rope out and she puts it around herself, and they have this lovely conversation at the same time. And all these prostitutes are hanging out of the window like they want to know what's happening. And they fall in love with Leo as Catherine is really realizing that, and he admits, he goes, I love you. I love you. And I mean, he's able to get her to walk in, and then he grasps her, and it's just such a beautiful, lovely scene. And, you know, Harry's also there. But, you know, they take her back to the Rutledge and they clean her up. And then throughout the night, Leo helps Catherine cope with the coming down of the opium by basically pleasuring her every time she needs any kind of support. And then at the morning, when she's got her wits about her again, they make love, and, you know, they decide they're going to be married the next day, married by morning. But it's just so beautiful, and you're just so happy that they're together. And who else is back but Dodger? And they decide that Dodger is definitely Catherine's, not Beatrix's. So he gets to come back because Catherine was worried that he had been killed in the altercation with William. But no, he's recovering nicely. And then in the epilogue, Catherine and Leo have twins, and it's just so beautiful. And I mean, you find out that Poppy's had a daughter, and Wynne has had her son, and of course there's Rye, who is Amelia and Cam's son. You know, everybody's just so happy, and it's just such a beautiful ending, and I just love this book so much, and I'm so happy for Leo and Catherine. Even though they're fictional, it feels like they're real. And I have to say, this is no surprise. I am rating this 5 stars. Such a beautiful book. That was my lovely COVID vlog. If you got through the whole thing, bless you. I just want to thank you for your support and hanging in there with me. It was really a nice weight off my chest to be able to enjoy this book and share it with you while I was recovering. So I want to thank you for hanging out. I hope that you are doing so well. I hope that you're enjoying whatever it is that you're reading. Until next time, thank you so much. Take care. Bye.